Welcome to Data-Driven Instruction. This presentation will shed some light on how we treat standardized testing at CSS. Feedback is simply what a teacher gives to a student to help them improve. This can be anything from a comment about a student's effort, to a debate, to a test in the classic sense. Assessments can be divided into a couple different categories. There are formative assessments, which are assessments given in the middle of a unit of study and provides a student with feedback that he or she can use right away to improve their outcomes. Summative assessments, on the other hand, are those assessments given at the end of a unit before a student goes on to something else, and it is a kind of once and done thing where the student may have quite a bit of time pass before they can put the feedback into practice. Authentic assessments are assessments that don't just measure what students know, they attempt to measure what students can do. So this might ask a student to address a scientific question by designing an experiment, conducting an experiment, collecting data, analyzing the data, and then interpreting the results and applying them back to the original question. Standardized tests don't generally have large authentic assessment components, but they are valuable in the sense that they enable us to compare the performance of our students to the performance of students at their same grade level nationwide. There are limits to what standardized tests can tell us, though. They can't tell us much about collaborative problem-solving skills, resilience, perseverance, a sense of purpose, intrinsic motivation. These things we need to find out in other ways. Studies have been done on what types of indicators are best for determining the likelihood of success in college. Standardized tests do shed some light on this. However, GPAs are a stronger indicator of likely success in college, perhaps because they take into account some of these softer skills like perseverance and ability to work in a team. When determining how we're going to treat standardized testing at CSS, we always consider trade-offs, the primary one being time. We want to maximize the time we can spend teaching and students can spend learning, and pare back the amount of time we spend on standardized tests to the bare essentials, just enough time to get the data we need and to help students prepare the way they need to. Our philosophy at CSS is that standardized tests provide one data point among many. We don't want to give too much weight to a single standardized test result, knowing that many things can affect this, everything from which side of the bed the student woke up on that morning to whether they're feeling good, whether they're having some social emotional trauma, broke up with a boyfriend, girlfriend, or sleep, almost anything. We do want our students to be prepared for the tests they take, especially those college admissions tests like the ACT and SAT. So we don't want them to be surprised by the test questions, and we want them to have some strategies that they can use to maximize their success. At the same time, we're certainly not a test prep school. We're not focused just on tests, we're focused on whole student. We use the results in a couple ways, one of which is to identify places where individual students can make headway in their academic career. And the other thing we use it for is to analyze our own school-wide program and look for ways to improve that. So here's our overview of the sequence of tests we do at CSS. In grades 3 through 8, we do the ACT Aspire. This was new to us last year, and it was new to everybody because last year was the first year this was offered. In 9th grade, we have the College and Work Readiness Assessment, and we also give a retired ACT for practice. In 10th grade, they take the PSAT for the first time, and they take a second retired ACT. The reason that we give PSAT and ACT for practice is so that students can identify their test of strength and spend a little more time focusing on preparing for that particular test instead of preparing for both at the same time. 11th grade, they take the PSAT again, and this is for the National Merit Scholarship Qualifiers. Some of our students get some great scholarship money from that each year. And in the spring, our students take the ACT or SAT for college admissions purposes. Junior year, most of our students take advanced placement courses, and they'll have AP exams in the spring as well. In 12th grade, we circle back around to the college and work readiness assessment to see how much our students have improved in that critical thinking component over the 4 years in high school. And they also will take some AP exams in spring if they're in some advanced placement courses. Some of our students determine that they want to take the ACT or the SAT a second time, and they'll do that in the fall of 12th grade if they decide they want to do that. The ACT Aspire, this was new to us. As I said before, we were taking the ITBS in the past. We did not feel it adequately measured critical thinking and higher level thinking skills, so we switched to the ACT Aspire. It has 5 components: English, reading, writing, math, and science. It's pretty long, about 4 hours. In grades 3 through 5, they split this over 4 days. In middle school, they split it between 2 days. They have, in addition to selected response questions, which are simply a fancy name for multiple choice, there are constructed response questions, which are basically short answer written in questions. And the writing section is exclusively a writing sample, where students will be prompted to write a short story or a compare and contrast or a persuasive piece. Each question is rated for the depth of knowledge the student requires to employ in order to answer the question, with a level 1 being simple factual regurgitation or simple application of a single rule. This would be something like a grammar, whereas a level 2 and then up to a level 3 gets increasingly more challenging. This is where we get into compare and contrast, or an explanation, or a multiple step problem solving process, or a justification. This test is linked to the ACT College Readiness benchmarks, which were established through some long time research by ACT that found that there was a correlation between a particular score on the ACT in a given section and the likelihood of earning a B or better on a first year college course in that subject area. The results for the ACT Aspire are given in 2 ways. One is this measurement of how are they comparing on the college readiness trajectory to having success on the ACT, which would then indicate how successful they'll be or likely to be in first year college. Pulling this all the way back to 3rd grade, there's a lot of years in there, and we need to take this with a grain of salt, I think. They also will give us results on the ACT Aspire in terms of percentile rank, which tells us where our students scored relative to the other test takers in that grade level. These are our results in the spring of last year. And you can see this is percentile rank. So in most categories, we're in the mid 80th percentile, writing mid 70th percentile. If you look at the math here on the left, we're about the 84th percentile there. That means that our average CSS student scored better than 84% of the other test takers. Here's the college readiness benchmark measure. The blue bars are CSS, average again, 3rd grade through 8th grade, and green are national average. You can see here that our students on average are about twice as ready as the other test takers. We would like to see some of these a little bit higher. We're not overly concerned, but we are going to take a look at the writing, see if we have things that would make sense to do with our curriculum to improve that writing readiness. We have already incorporated a new writing program in children's school as of the first day of school this year, and we'll continue to look at that. We do not see, however, as you'll notice later, we don't see this trend of a low writing proficiency continue through PSAT and ACT scores, SAT scores. The PSAT is changed a bit. It has now 2 components. One is evidence-based reading and writing, which is a reading test and a writing test kind of combined, and then also a math test. It's 2 hours, 45 minutes. It has only selected response questions, multiple choice. And its emphasis is on the meaning of words in extended context now. So instead of simply being, what does this word mean in a vacuum, it has students pulling words out of a piece of written work, trying to determine if the student can figure out its meaning, tone, and impact within the context of a reading passage. So a little bit more like the ACT than the historical SAT. Now they don't have any deductions for incorrect responses, and the scoring almost mimics the SAT on a scale of up to 1,520. And in 11th grade, again, this is the test taken to determine national merit scholarship qualifiers. Here's how we've done on that over the last 3 years. We're well above the national norm again. And if you look at the writing, nothing low there. So somewhere in there, we're making up the gap that showed up this year in the ACT Aspire in the younger years. ACT and SAT, let's take a look at the ACT first. The ACT has the same 5 components as we have in the ACT Aspire, so the Aspire will be preparing our kids for the ACT college admissions test. The writing is optional in this case. Length is 3.5 hours about, and we have selected response, and then that writing piece is optional. It's scored on a scale of up to 36. The SAT is changing alongside the PSAT. This last year in 2015, we had critical reading, writing, math, and an essay, a full written essay that was included in the writing summation. It was 3 hours, 45 minutes on a scale of 2,400, and students lost 1/4 point for incorrect answers. That's changing as of January. They're going to that same model used in the PSAT, where they've got evidence-based reading and writing, math, and that essay is optional. The time's about the same as it has been in the past, but it's dropping back down to the 1,600 as the top score, and there again is no penalty for incorrect answers anymore. So our SAT, the blue is a CSS average over the last 3 years. It's about the same whether you take the last 3 up to the last 6 years. Colorado average a little bit lower, national average lower yet. On the ACT, which is the test of strength for the majority of our students, about 80% of our students take the ACT on an average year. You can see we're about 27 compared to the Colorado national averages of about 21. It's a pretty big jump. The college and work readiness assessment is my personal favorite. It is really aimed at measuring critical thinking and written communication, tools that are not only important in college, but they're super important in the working world. And these are some of the things that they're focused on there. The cool part about this test, in my opinion, is the performance task. Students are given a central question that doesn't have a correct or incorrect answer. It is a judgment call on the student's part. A couple of years ago, this question was posed to a hypothetical city council. Should the city council build a recreational center in their town? And the students were given a piece of information. There was a newspaper article on the merits of physically healthy lifestyle, on the healthcare costs down the road as people get older. There was a video showing someone being interviewed related to a wetland, I believe it was, and what effects would be likely if this recreational center was built in the middle of a wetland. So kind of an environmental impact component there. There was a quantitative analysis piece that had some graphs and some quantitative data. And a couple more pieces of information. The students had to take it all in, determine what was relevant, what was irrelevant, and then weigh out the relevant material, come up with a recommendation to the city council, and then justify it. The selected response component of the test is simply multiple choice again, but directly focused on critical thinking skills, kind of the depth of knowledge, level 3 and above. Links an hour and 30 minutes, so pretty quick. We do our freshmen in the fall and the seniors in the spring, so we can see how much they improve over their high school career here at CSS. And this is what we've looked at. We've been taking it for 2 years. First year, our freshmen did quite well, 95th percentile, scoring, our average student scoring better than 95% of the other test takers. And this test is taken almost exclusively by other independent school students, so we're pretty proud of this. Our seniors, not so good. In retrospect, we think we probably gave it a little bit too late in the senior year when the students had started to check out. We had some really bright students in that class, and I would expect if they had really applied themselves, that their scores would have been a bit higher, but we're still at the 70th percentile, not bad. Last year, low 90s, high 80th percentile, looking really good, and we're going to continue to work on this. This is something that our students naturally do pretty well at because of the way we fundamentally teach here at CSS. If we break down the performance task, these are the three components they look at. The analysis and problem solving's part of it, but writing and the written communication piece is a big piece of it as well. And you can see that our writing effectiveness and writing mechanics are pretty strong in there. We're not seeing any trending based on the ACT Aspire results in the younger grades, which is good to see. And on the left, we have our 9th grade. On the right, we have 12th grade. AP, Advanced Placement, this is associated with specific courses we offer at CSS. We're teaching college-level material to our high school students, and they can earn credit. It depends on what score they earn and on the policy of the college to which they're applying. The grades are oftentimes weighted an extra point. This means that if a student normally would earn an A in a non-AP course, that would contribute 4 points towards their GPA. If that same A was earned in an AP course, they would earn 5 points that would contribute to their GPA. The way this is treated by colleges varies. We have 14 AP courses at CSS right now. They're scored on a scale of 1 to 5, with a 3 traditionally being considered as a passing. 3s at this point rarely earn college credit. Colleges oftentimes give credit for 4s or 5s on AP exams. Nevertheless, it is a resume builder for students to take and do well in AP courses. The length varies. It's generally about 3 hours. The question types also vary, anything from selected response to free response and data-based questions. Some of them have recordings, some of them require portfolios. Here are our scores over the last 4 years. CSS, we're again in blue, national average is in green. We're scoring above the national average in all but one class, that class in the middle, Calculus BC. Most schools who offer that course offer it subsequently to Calculus, AP Calculus AB as a second year of Calculus, whereas our students jump straight into Calculus BC after pre-calc. So we're thinking that's still pretty good, and especially considering we take about 3 weeks out of school for ECSs, our students are doing very, very well. Hope you've enjoyed the presentation. Be sure you come by and check in with me if you have any questions, or shoot me an email. I'll be happy to talk with you. Have a great day.